All right, everyone, it's 3:15, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Is everyone ready? All right. So yeah, what matters is that your laptop is out and that you're logged into Onshape. In the meantime, I guess I'll just explain what we're going to be doing. Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm not sure if all of you know me. I'm actually an alum from class of 2016. And if you were at Cal Games and you saw someone wearing a bright yellow hat constantly in the pit, that was me. Anyways, we're going to be doing some intro to Onshape over the next 3 weeks. And today we'll start with the basics and then just sort of progress from there. So real quick, does anyone here know how to explain what CAD software is? Anyone? Yeah? Yeah, that's a really good explanation for it. So CAD stands for computer aided design, and the whole purpose of CAD is to create a one-to-one mock-up of what you're going to be creating in real life. There's a lot of advantages to using it, namely that you can get exact dimensions for parts so that you can send them out to be machined. You can look at relations before you actually start building, take into account how exactly this assembly you create is going to be assembled. So yeah, it's something that the team uses pretty consistently to create and modify our robots. So the reason we're doing these trainings is because historically the team has used SolidWorks as our CAD software, but we are trying to migrate more to Onshape for a few reasons. One being that Onshape, unlike traditional CAD softwares, is based entirely in the cloud. So you can log into a website, no matter what type of laptop you're on. It can be Mac, it can be PC, it can be whatever, and you'll be able to access Onshape. You will need an educational account. So if you did not make an educational account, please use the link that we sent out, I think last night, to create one. And you should see something roughly like this once you're logged in, where you have a create button in the left, shared with me, Teams, public, and anything you might have played around with. So I guess I should probably explain this as well. If you see this little snail in the top left corner, that is going to be roughly what we're making. It's just going to be like a robo snail with some wheels, which are not pictured, but that's the general idea. We're going to be working on a project that's simple enough for a beginner, but still does have some carryover to what you'll be doing in robotics. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, so I'm going to get this open real quick. Again, in the meantime, if you're not already logged into your Onshape account, do so now. But let's see this. So there's a few basic elements to an Onshape document. You'll see here something called a part studio, noted by this icon here, where you sort of have two blocks next to each other. This is going to be where you create a lot of parts for a sub-assembly. You can actually create multiple parts in a part studio, although I generally suggest you only do one if it's going to be a really complicated part. For this class, we'll just do everything in one part studio to make things simpler. You can also create an assembly, which is where you actually start to put parts together in a way that is solid. So like in this case, I also have a specific assembly so that these can go up and down. These are fixed to each other, so I won't be able to move them. And then you can also create drawings, which are going to be, well, what they sound like. Drawings are documents that show the dimensions of a part in a front, top, and side view so that you can actually machine them. So today we're going to be mainly looking at creating parts, and that's going to be in the part studio. So I'm going to go back to here. I said I'm going to go back to there. Okay, I'm just going to go to my home. So as you guessed, this top button over here is your home button. And we're going to start by creating something. So we are going to say create, and then we are going to click create document. And you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Hour of CAD RoboSnail. And it'll take you to a part studio and an assembly. Again, today we're mainly going to be working on the part studio aspect of things. As a note, we will have to end a little bit early because unfortunately I have midterms. But we will be going until about 4:05-ish, and the amazing Sophie will be helping us along the way as well. So if you have any questions and you need me to interrupt, then I can, or I can send Sophie over to help you out. Okay, so all of you should have something like this. I guess look up or look at me or whatever if that is true. Okay, I see some nodding. Okay, that's good. Great, awesome, awesome. Okay, so remember how I said you needed a 3-button mouse? Let's explore why. So I want you to click and drag with the center button of your mouse. And you'll notice it's moving around kind of like this, right? So yeah, that's part of why the center mouse is really, really important to CAD, because not just for the software, but for others, that center button can also help you zoom in and out. It can help you move. It can help you turn things. Speaking of which, let's try scrolling in and out and seeing what happens. I'm scrolling in and I'm scrolling out. So in this case, the scroll wheel, and this is true across CAD platforms, will act as you're zooming in and zooming out. Do note that it's going to scroll in and out relative to where your mouse is. So right now I'm zooming into this top left corner of the screen, and I'm zooming out relative to that top left corner. So if you're trying to zoom in on your part, I would try to get as close to the origin as possible. So that's one thing. If you want to rotate your view with your mouse, you'll use the right mouse button, and you'll just sort of click and drag in the direction you want to rotate in. Now, if you want a specific view, you can also use this view cube on the top right. So if I want specifically the front plane, I can click over here to get to the front plane. If I want that corner view that I had, I can click on the corner and it'll take me to that. So your mouse is going to be really, really important to your navigating throughout Onshape. And that is why we told you that you will need a 3-button mouse for this. Don't worry, we will be providing 3-button mouses as needed throughout the workshops. But in general, if you are out and about in the wild trying to do some CAD and you don't have a 3-button mouse, then you are going to be rather limited in what you can do. So before we move any further, does anyone have any questions so far? All right. So we're going to start by making our first part of the snail. And in this case, it's going to be good to start with the body. So you'll notice that we have these 3 planes here, the front, the right, and the top, and we also have our origin. Generally for CAD, it's good practice to start your part at the origin and then use one of these 3 planes as your reference. So let's go over here to this sketch. This is going to create a new sketch. You click it, and then you can select the plane. In our case, I think we can select the front plane. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice it's going to create this sort of light blue line that's parallel and coplanar with the front plane. To get a good view of the front plane, again, we click on this little front face on the cube, and it'll snap us to that view. So again, everything that you're about to sketch is going to be on this front plane. So if you're facing the right plane, you're not going to see it. If you're on the top plane, you're not going to see it. You need to be on the front plane. So we're going to start simple. We're going to start with one of the most basic shapes you can make, a rectangle. So you see how it says corner rectangle. So right now, I actually want you to click on the arrow next to it and select center point rectangle, mainly for the reason so that we can make this centered on the origin. So I want you to click on that origin. It's going to turn orange and form a little box around it. You're going to click there and just sort of pull your mouse out to about here. Don't worry if your dimensions don't match up with mine. We're about to fix that. So you'll notice now that you're still able to click and things on points. So hit the escape button and you'll be able to just click and drag on the points. All right, I'll give you a minute to catch up. All right. All right, so again, where you click would be the rectangle arrow, and then you click on center point rectangle. And then you hit escape once you've done created your rectangle. All right, are you all right over there? So we can help them. I'll work on the group in the back, you work on the one on the right. All right, so Look up, I guess, if you have a rectangle of some sort on your screen. All right, I'm seeing eyes here, here. All right, you had a question? Oh, great, okay. All right, so once you have this rectangle, try to click and drag on one of these points. You'll notice that the rectangle is gonna kind of move with you. You'll notice that you can sort of, shrink the rectangle, you can grow the rectangle, you can sort of change the ratio of height to width. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. And in CAD, that's generally not a good thing. You want this to be fully defined. You don't want there to be any room for misinterpretation or error. So fortunately, we have something called the dimensioning tool, which is right here. I'm hovering over what appears to be a line with 2 arrows on either side. It says dimension D, and we're going to click on that. Oh, come on in.
Sorry, I didn't know it was here. I went to
Oh, sorry about that. All right. All right. So in that case, if you could, what's your name, by the way? Samanya. Okay. If you could get Onshape open on your laptop, we have your notebook and a mouse in the back if you need it.
Okay.
All right. And I am going to try to slow it down a little bit so that you can catch up. But I will be sending out this recording tonight, and Sophie is also available to help out. So if you are in need of any help, just call her. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, so all of you have clicked on this dimension button, yes? Great. So first, we're going to start by clicking on this top line right here. I'm going to scroll out a little bit. We're going to click on it, and we're going to sort of pull our mouse out here, and you're going to see that there's a number attached. And once you click, it's going to pull up this dialog box asking you what to put in. I'm going to put in 3 inches. And that is one way that you can define a linear dimension. Another way you can do it is to go point to point. So I'm going to click on this point up here, and then go down to this point down here. And I'm going to put in 5 inches. And you'll notice that once you define all the sides, it's going to turn black. That means that its exact size and position in space has been determined. You'll notice that if I exit the dimension tool, I won't be able to click and drag on this point. It'll be selected, but it's not going to move. So I'm assuming everyone is roughly at 3 by 5 rectangle, yes? All right, so what we just did is fully define the sketch. That means that we have fully defined its size, its shape, its translation, its orientation relative to this 3-planar system. What happens if we add another dimension? Let's find out. I'm going to click here, I'm going to drag out here, and I'm going to put in 4 inches and see what happens. Oh, my sketch just turned red. Hi, Miss Riley. So right here, we have a state known as being overdefined. This means that there are too many dimensions on this thing and it cannot find a good solution. And I think we can tell what's causing it. This little 4-inch over here when we already had 3 by 5. After all, we defined it as a rectangle, which means those 2 sides should be equal. So I'm going to delete this. And now it's gone. So if you see red, that means you've overdefined it, and that means likely the dimension you just added is causing some sort of issue. Right now, what we have is solid black lines. That's good. That's what we like to see. So we're going to click on this check mark in the top corner of the Sketch 1 window, and that will complete our sketch. So all of you complete your sketch, and then we'll move on to the next bit, which is going to be turning this into a 3D part. All right, I'm going to take that as a sign of being done. So now we are going to move into creating a new part from this 2D sketch. So we're going to click on this button. It was right next to sketch. It's going to be like a white cube with a black cube coming out of it, and it's going to say extrude. And you'll notice this dialog box pops up. It's going to say solid, surface, new, add, remove, intersect, all those words. If you have that, then you clicked on the right button, that is extrude. So in this case, we don't have any parts on the screen right now, so we're going to have new be selected. And for face and sketch regions to extrude, click on the sketch that you just made. You can click on it here, or you can click on it from the tree. And you'll notice it starts to fill in, right? You'll notice that you might have a color, maybe it's blue, maybe it's gray, but it's filled in. And when you rotate, using your right mouse button again, you'll notice that there's an arrow and now it's 3D. So we're going to change that depth to about 8 inches. You'll see where we're going with this in a bit. And now it's just jutting out from the front plane at 8 inches. Now, another thing, like I told you earlier, is I like to work from the origin so that we remember where everything is relative to that. So I am actually going to have y'all select this arrow next to blind and then, oh wait, wrong one, sorry. And you'll actually just want to select symmetric underneath depth. And what this is going to do is evenly distribute your extrusion about that front plane. So now you have 4 inches in the front and 2 inches in the back. And then you can click check mark and you're done. You've created your first part. Okay, so do all of you have some sort of rectangular prism / bar shaped object on your screen? Okay, great. So I'm just gonna pull up what I already made. I'm gonna go to a new tab. I'm going to cast this tab. Cast. Okay, how do I change what tab I'm casting? Okay, well, all right, I'm just gonna cast on here then. So you'll notice that in the snail example I showed y'all, the snail body is just sort of sloping down like that. So how we're going to achieve that effect is we're going to make a cutout out of this prism we just made. So we're going to click on this surface right here, see how it turns orange, and we're going to click on sketch. Now we're going to be sketching parallel to the right plane. So how should we orient our view so that we know where our sketch is going to be? Yes? Sorry, I thought I saw a hand. Sorry, yeah. All right. Yes, good. So I'm going to click on the right button on this cube, and it'll take us right to this plane. Again, we're going to go on the long side of the prism here, and you're going to see the words right plane on your screen. So we're going to start by creating a little cutout. And for this, we're going to be doing something a bit more complicated with the sketch. We're going to be using the line tool. And I want you to just sort of hover over this top line until it turns orange. Once it does that, you can click on it once, and you'll know that your line that you're creating right now is going to be like coincident with that top line. You'll notice that there's going to be a dimension. I can do whatever angle I want. But you'll also notice when I start going down, you'll see this dashed line, and your mouse will sort of snap to creating a perpendicular line downward. So I want you to do that. Again, we'll change the dimensions afterwards. And then again, once you go in the right direction and you're going kind of straight out, it's going to hover and create that little dotted line. Is that showing up? Oh, yeah, that is not projecting very well, is it? Let me just click them. And then you sort of go down to the bottom corner. Again, it'll just sort of, yeah, I don't know, the projection is just, I think it's the lighting somehow, but then you'll click on this down here. And that will create that sort of vertical line, horizontal line, oblique line. So again, you don't have to have the exact dimensions. Just go for a horizontal line, a vertical line, and an oblique line in, vertical, horizontal, oblique order. Yeah, I think for whatever reason, until I actually click on the line, it's just not projecting well. I'm guessing it's not showing up very well. Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe I can like change, how like there's a dark mode for Facebook and Twitter and shit. Sorry, and stuff. I'm sorry. That might be a good idea. I like that. So there's like a dark mode for certain apps. I'm wondering if there's a dark mode for on shape, because I feel like that would help. I will look into that. I will look into whether or not there is a dark mode. Oh, and when you're done creating lines, remember to hit escape. Otherwise, you're going to be creating lines into all oblivion. And no one likes creating lines into all oblivion. So how's everyone doing so far? All right, I'm seeing thumbs up. That's good. That's good. Okay, so in the meantime, I guess to move forward a little bit, we're going to start dimensioning. But the main thing I want to show all of you is if you want to dimension angles, you can actually do that a little bit differently. So instead of clicking on an individual line, you can click on one line and then a plane, another line, another like something in a different direction that is touching it. And you'll notice that this number comes up right here. So you can click anywhere and then type in your number and it'll do that for you. So that's part of why we want to show you how to do oblique lines, because sometimes you will be doing angular dimensions. Oh, sure, for sure. I'm going to delete that. So right now, this point, I can kind of drag it in whatever which way, but I can also do so to change the angle, right? So I'm going to click on dimension and I'm going to click on this line and this line. And when you go over here, you're going to be able to click on 45 degrees. And that'll do that. Yeah, so notice it's only going to work between two lines that are sharing a vector or two lines that are, intersecting somehow. So I won't really be able to define, say, the angle between this line and this line on top, because they're already defined as parallel to each other and there's no chance of them intersecting. So for now, I'm going to do a few other things. Again, you can go line to other line or point to point if you want. And I'm going to make the head about, snails have a really small head. I'm going to go 1 inch. Now that feels weird. Let's go 2 inches. So you'll notice that you can also click on the dimension afterwards and change it if you want. Did you have a question? Which one, the angle or the? Oh, this one. All right, for sure. Thank you for stopping me, by the way. I actually really appreciate knowing what you might need help on. So you can go point to point as we did earlier, but you can also click on this line. You'll notice it's going to turn orange. And then you can click on the line over here. Again, wait for it to turn orange. And you sort of drag it out and you can put in your dimension. All right. So let's see what happens if I try to define this. Do you think it's going to cause problems or no? Let's find out. It doesn't. And the reason for that is we have an angular measurement, but we don't know exactly how high that line is supposed to go. So let's call it 4 inches. And then you'll notice it sort of dimensions everything else relative. Yes? Of course. All right. So this line, we're going to click on it with the dimensioning tool. And we're going to drag out. And we're going to put in 4 inches. It's okay if your dimensions are slightly different from mine, by the way. These are going to be snails that you eventually customize. So if you have a chubby snail or a skinny snail, totally okay. We're making snails. That's what matters in our hearts. So we're going to leave the dimension tool for a bit. And you'll notice that we now have these sort of areas right here. And you have the sort of orange border going across this area and an orange border going across here. This is actually kind of nice because with SolidWorks, you would actually have to create another line and draw that out. With this one, you don't have to. That's really cool. And then we're going to finish the sketch. But yeah, you should have a snail something like this, a slight little slug sort of body. And okay, so I guess just look up once you have your sketch ready to go. And thumbs up is also okay. All right, thumbs up. I know I checked y'all off. Sophie's helping y'all. And how are we doing over here? Good. What about you? Good? Great. Awesome. So now we actually need to cut this out of the snail. So, oh, that sounds mean. We're going to click on extrude again, but this time I want all of you to click on remove. It's right next to the new button. So you're going to go to remove. And you're going to, oh yeah, so go to extrude. And then instead of new, how it's normally on, you go to remove. So yeah, extrude and then remove is going to be one of the options. So I'm going to have you click on this sort of top right area right here. Again, notice the orangish border going around it. All of you should have this sort of basic shape right here, yes? So now I want you to try to rotate your view. Again, we're going to use that right mouse button to do that. And you'll notice it's actually creating a little hole. Yeah, because we're cutting this out, remember? Okay, so how about we start from what we just did? Assuming a completed sketch, I'm just going to show you again. So extrude, and then remove instead of new. And we're going to click on this surface right here, and you'll notice the little border show up. And this is going to change colors. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and rotate, and it's creating a hole. You see, it's cutting. Don't worry. No. It's going to show this, but that's not what's happening yet. What's up? It looks like you're doing it correctly, actually. All right, so if you're seeing something where part of the snail is deleted, you are doing it correctly. And I'm actually going to have you go a little more correctly, and you're going to click on blind and select through all. And now it's just fully gone. Like now it's gone, right? And now you're going to click on that check mark, and you just made your first extruded cut. I do have to leave in about the next 10 minutes. So I guess what we'll do after that is I'll give you some time with Sophie afterwards. If you have any questions, you can also go to her. But for now, we've actually accomplished quite a bit. We have cut out a basic snail body, and we're going to do one more quick modification on it. Well, a few, but for now, we just, the thing about snails is they're round, they're pudgy, they're curvy. And it's been a long day. Yeah, I'll show you a giant African land snail one day. They're very chubby. Yeah, actually, yeah, I'll do that at the end of class. I'll show all of you one of the biggest snails in the world. But for now, we need to get rid of these angles. I don't like angular snails. I like curvy snails. So we're going to deal with this button over here. Why am I like this? Okay, so we're going to, oh boy, we're about to press F to pay respect. So we're going to click on fillet. It's going to say fillet shift F. It's going to be sort of under the word main, if you have the same aspect ratio as I do. And if you're clicking on the right button, you'll see this whole thing that says fillet shift F, create constant or variable fillets, blah, blah, blah. Click on that, and you'll say edge or full round. So, oh, of course. Yeah. So again, if you hover over, it's going to say fillet shift F, and then eventually a bunch of other text will show up. All right, so I'm going to assume you're finding it okay. Again, I apologize if this is kind of hard to see. I'll figure out what's going on with the ratio of the projection. It's okay. I think this is actually really good to know. I'm wondering if perhaps Zoom might be a better format just for like projection's sake, but for now we're going to work with this. Yeah, come to think of it, this happened at WRF too. So you're going to say edge, and let's start by clicking on these edges right here. Oh, look guys, curves. So you'll notice that you just sort of have these new curvy places, and you can actually change the radius of the curve. Let's change it to 1. All right, I can restart it if you want to see. Please, okay. So again, you want to click on. All right. Thanks, Aiden. All right, so we're going to click on fillet. Again, all these words are going to show up if you're hovering over the right button. Mainly look for the words fillet or fillet shift F or something. So you'll click there, and you're going to be on edge mode. Okay, so you'll want to click on whichever edge you want to fillet. Let's start by these guys in here. And you'll notice that when you click on the edges, it'll start to show you the makings of curves. And you can also create a larger radius by going to radius and typing in, say, 1.5 inches. Or you can even go bigger and you can say 2 inches. And now you have a very, very rounded out snail. So unfortunately, you can't really put multiple fillets in of different dimensions. You'll have to create another set of fillets with a different dimension. But if you click check, now you have a big pudgy snail, and it's wonderful. that's totally okay, because we actually are going to be curving some more things. Because again, nature does not like sharp corners for a variety of reasons. So you can click fillet, you can click on this edge if you want. Oh, that's way too curvy. So yeah, let me know when you have the basic curves down. Actually, I'll go check on all of you. All right. So again, I just want you to have the back portion of the snail kind of curvy because we are going to be playing a little bit with the face. Speaking of which, do we have time? We have like 5 minutes, but does anyone have any questions overall? All right. So in that case, since we have about 5 minutes left, there isn't really, what can I show you that's new?
What is the next step in the process for next week?
So next week we'll be working on the shell itself. There is a bit of weird geometry to that, so that would be good to go over together. For now, I think what I can show you is the actual snail assembly that all of you will eventually be making, because I do need to leave soon. So you'll notice that when you're in the Onshape interface, you'll see things like recently opened, created by me, shared with me, all that stuff. So you can actually share projects with each other that way. And what I've been referencing is the snail right here. So, no, you're doing it great. A chubby snail is a good snail. So, let me ask you this. How do you think we can extrude a part that is completely round? This is just food for thought. It's okay if you don't have an answer. Oh, yes? How do you extrude a part that is completely round? Because so far, everything we have extruded has some sort of flat surface. Oh, yeah. You're on the right track. So let me show you how this was made. So you'll notice that I selected something called revolve. What I did was I took a flat base, but then I revolved it around an axis. And because the cross section itself was round, you end up with roundness everywhere. So that is how you can make a completely round surface. And we will be doing that for the eyes. In the meantime, oh, you can also do it to make flat faces as well. You just can't have a round cross section in that case. So eventually we will be creating this shell, which actually we do have a few minutes. We could do that. So I'm going to go back to my original one that we were working on today. We're going to very, very quickly go through the shell because there is 2 important things in that I really want you to take away today. So we're going to click on this right plane and we're going to create a sketch. This is going to be a really simple sketch. And again, it's okay if you don't have the same dimensions. There are only 2 things I really want you to take away from this, and you'll see what they are. We'll click on the circle. It's just going to be the center point circle, standard stuff. Click somewhere and then pull it out here. And you'll notice that you'll be able to drag it about. So for now, I'll bring her to about there. And I'll start by dimensioning the radius. Oh, you can just click on the center point and then it'll move with you. So I'll click on the radius and I'll make it a 5.5-inch shell. And for now, just dimension it relative to the origin if you want. I don't care if you don't have exact dimensions for that. Just put it where you think would be good for a shell to go. So here, let me show you again how to do the dimensions. So for the dimensions, the first thing you do is click on the outside, and that will define how big your circle is. That'll define your radius. Well, in this case, diameter. So let's do 5.5 inches. And then we're going to dimension the radius, or the origin of the circle to the origin of the entire plane. So click on this dot, and then click on this one. And you'll notice you can do 3 different ways. You can go kind of diagonal like this. You can go horizontal like this. And you can sort of pull it to the left and do a vertical dimension. We want to do a horizontal and a vertical dimension. So to show you again, you'll click on the center point of the circle and the center origin. And then you will drag all the way upwards to create a horizontal dimension. And let's call that 0.75 inches. Actually, now let's make it a bit further away. Let's make it 1 inch away. Not like that. I said 1, not 0.1. There we go. It's okay. We're gonna get to this next week as well, but for now, I just wanted to show you 2 key things. It is okay. So for now, if you're confused or lost, just watch along. We will go over this next week as well. So again, to create a dimension between the radius, the origin of the circle and the origin of the sketch, you'll click on the origins, and again, you can sort of go in a diagonal direction, but you want to go in a horizontal or a vertical. And that depends on how you're dragging your mouse. If you drag it all the way to the right, it'll eventually turn vertical. Click anywhere. I'm going to say that I want that to be, let's try 0.375. Okay. Now, this part, I just want you to watch along because we will go over this next week as well. All right, so there are 2 things I want you to take away from this. One is we don't want to extrude this entire region. So what we're going to do is hit the check mark. And when we go to extrude, you can actually choose, as you've noticed, you're going to have this issue right here where it's going to select the entire circle no matter what. So we do need to define that line. I'm going to go back into the sketch. Again, I don't expect you to follow along this part, just watch. And watch this. I'm going to click on use. And I'm going to click on these lines. And you'll notice that they're starting to turn dark black because these lines are now being carried into the sketch. And you can also, by that same token, get rid of lines. So clicking on these scissors will get rid of all the spare lines. And now when we leave the sketch and try to extrude, it will show us just this section. Again, it's okay if you don't have this. I'm just showing you because this is what we're going to be doing next time as well. Then instead of saying add, which would create mass and add it onto here, we're going to say new and select that. And that is how you can create a basic shell. So we're going to say up to next. Sorry, we're going to say up to face, no offset distance, select this one. And again, we'll be doing this next time as well. So don't feel bad if you don't have this. I'm just showing you because that is going to be how you create your shell. So with that, I'm going to get rid of the shell and I'm going to end the recording. If anyone has any questions, I can take them for the next few minutes. All right.